even the worst selling book is somebody's favorite. Again, so you wind up upsetting somebody if you go from the worst selling book and close that door while you try to create something brand new. And we're always trying to improve. We're always trying. And how do you improve? Well, guess what? We have the same characters. There's only so much you can do with them. There's only so many ways you can play them. And at the end of the day, there's only so many tricks you can pull out of your sleeve. You know what? Kill a character, bring them back, change who it is, keep them the same. Go back to the origin, change the origin. Get a new writer, get a new artist, get a new inker, get a new colorist, whatever we can do. Change the logo. That's going to make a difference.
And what do you do for year 2?
What? Exactly. And you know what? You're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So at the end of the day, you know what? There's so many tricks up the sleeve, and so many times you can pull it. And the problem is, like I said at the start, I've been reading 20 years. You've seen it all. You've heard it all. And the bottom line is that we're trying to still attract new people. We're trying to get to other people. And they might be repeating a trick or two you've known along the way, but the bottom line is that we're hoping that there's somebody brand new that one trick is going to bring in, hopefully keep around for as long as you will.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the game. Yeah.
Is there any reaction, first of all, for that statement in itself, before I ask a follow-up question?
Well, it's a whole different thing with other people and other publishers, because it's a different kind of game. You know, when we were dealing with something like what we do is we're not using characters that have been around for 40, 50, 60 years. We're creating new characters. So when it's every month it's, well, now this character who's never met this characters before at all is meeting some other character. And the problem that we have faced to some degree is an audience going, I just read Batman, or I just read Superman, and that retailers get accustomed to, well, we know how to order Spider-Man, but when it comes to looking in the catalog and there's a new guy by a new creator, we don't know what that means. We don't know what that number is. In the old days, back before we had the direct market, you would just send that stuff out cold, and you'd find out by how many books get returned and stuff. Right now, the retailers are controlling that end of stuff. So if they can decide this book is going to be a failure before the audience can make that determination at all.
The two things that I think that are most exciting for me in the industry right now are the success of Marvel's Dark Tower books and also Dark Horse's Buffy comics. In both cases, they're not superheroes, and they become top 10 selling books, best-selling books, or whatever. But the bottom line, and that's why we look at what Mark's going to do with Bloom Studios and ultimately with the Godfather book, it's something different. It's another flavor. You know, we do superheroes. That's my job. You know, we're a factory. We turn out a lot of product. You know, guess what? It's a business. You know, since it's that type of thing. And for me to see hope in Hills in that, you know, we're struggling to get our stuff out there and getting it noticed. It's nice to see other things break out that isn't just what we do, but something else, because it shows there is potential for other material to grow and build an audience and be successful out there.
Yeah, that's the only hope we have. I mean, if we've got a bottom line of 120,000 people out there buying superhero comics, and that's it, or 150,000, whatever it is, you know, and it dwindles every month, I would trade every one of those people for one junior high school's worth of readers, you know, because they, you know, I love everybody who reads our comics. I appreciate everybody who reads our superhero comics. That's great. I read them myself, but it gets harder and harder every year to just play to a straight superhero audience and not want to break out in other genres, because no matter what we do to try to increase that audience, it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It happens. It's a cyclical. It doesn't mean it's the end of it. It's a cyclical thing. It happened in the 70s when, you know, readers turned away from superheroes and wanted to read more horror books or more kung fu books. It happened in the 90s when independence, you know, when the Image guys took off and suddenly people were shifting away from straight DC and Marvel stuff. And it'll happen again. But for the time being, it's, you know, the state of the industry as far as superhero comics goes is it's kind of a down cycle, and we can only go up from here. Otherwise, I mean, it seems to be going well in other places. Like Dan said, the Buffy books are proving that a licensed book doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, viewed as a secondhand, you know, knockoff thing that that only the hardcore guys buy.
And the important part about that is too, is that when you have a licensed book like that, I mean, granted, Joss Whedon drives Buffy, but the bottom line is that they put, you know, a lot of times you just used to be able to put generic talent or anybody just to get on those books, just come out the door, and now they're actually putting some effort into it.
Well,
That's essential too.
That's a big part of it. The other big part of it is that it's the smartest thing they did with the Buffy books. Remember, they published, Dark Horse published the Buffy books for 100 issues. But until they said it's by Joss Whedon, and equally as important, it's season 8. It suddenly becomes must-read stuff for people who are Buffy fanatics. That's why we're launching the Farscape stuff in December that we're doing. We've announced that, and that also we're working with somebody who we haven't made the announcement yet, but it's of that same level when you know. And I can't say. I know you want me to say. But the point is, we're making a point of.
This is John Byrne.
It's John Byrne. And, so many jokes fighting to get out. Oh God. So many
Business
I know. So many things. But the point is, we're marketing it as the next season, the next season of the show, which therefore makes it not just some licensed novel that you may or may not read, but it becomes an important part of the mythology. Jimmy, what do you have to say?
Well, I mean, just from a freelancer's point of view, and again, as somebody who's self-published, I just always notice that, and especially with my right and left over here, is that the people, they were both lovers at one point. What I'm trying to point out is that,
Look at us.
is that the creators who have the passion, it shows in the books. And when the whole thing that Joe and I did with Marvel Knights is we just put the right guys on the right characters. And at the end of the day, no matter how big a publishing plan is or how small, it comes down to the right person on the right character, and the fans feel it. It's Josh on Buffy, you know, it's of course, that makes sense. And there's a lot of books out now, and even with the image books and the boom books, you say, oh, that guy doing that, that works, that makes sense. And it's a lot of common sense stuff, and these books tend to take off. And it goes beyond, you know, it used to be, well, when you had just Marvel and DC, it was just the characters. And these days, it's this writer doing that, I want to see that, you know. And it's the same thing why we go to watch certain TV shows and movies. It's the right people with the right thing.
Well, that's probably part of the problem with doing creator-owned a company which is entirely done by creators who are bringing their own stuff, because sometimes their passion is cooking. You know, and that's the problem. Is you go, well, I'm pitching this book. This is what I always wanted to do. You know, and it's like it's a cowboy western, fun time stuff. And if the audience just goes, we don't care, then it's like, geez, sorry, we thought it was cool.